in Wendover or in Clark or in Reno. We need to capitalize on the assets that we have, which are highly effective educators through this pandemic. So I apologize, sometimes I get excited about this work, but making sure that we have the people, making sure that we have the tools and supports, and a structured plan rolling out into the future, because we know this is not just going to be 1 or 2 months, it's over time. And that's why it was important too to have a plan and support that is systemic, that changes and supports the new structure for educating our children.
Thank you. I have just a second question, if that's okay, Madam Chair.
Sure, go ahead.
So shifting gears and looking at the 9 million and change for the broadband connectivity issue, which we know is something that affects families across the state. Could you talk a bit about the breakdown in how those dollars will be allocated throughout the state and how districts will be able to access them, and whether or not there will be reports either from districts to the state or from districts to their respective school boards to ensure that the broadband access is actually put in place in not only the areas that need it most, but the areas that are also the most underserved, and that it's not something that's temporary, that it's something that is long sustaining and can be in place for as long as we need it to be, considering how volatile our public health situation is.
Thank you, Senator. What I would add to that too is, since you spoke about health, is we need to be strategic as a state, not only in our educational components with these dollars, but telehealth, telemedicine, resources to those that have not had access. And so working collaboratively again with Brian Mitchell, who is the director of the Office of Science, Innovation, and Technology for our state, and also working with private industry, we're trying to triangulate. Director Mitchell has one component of data from the vendors of where we have an understanding that there is no broadband. There's another component where there is broadband, but it is not of quality. And especially when you have multiple children in a home, that broadband needs to be robust and reliable. And so that's another bucket. And then we have the third bucket where there are homes that already have access sufficient to conduct learning at home. And so right now we're trying to triangulate between what the providers across our state, we have multiple providers across our state, what they have and where they're currently located, and how we can expand existing broadband via these Wi-Fi components, which can spin up rather quickly. Also, too, then making a determination where it's a much longer term, like in Elko, there actually needs to be additional fiber laid in the ground to be able to get more high quality broadband into those homes. And then third is actually asking the families themselves with what access they currently have, and that's what the school districts are in the process of doing. We're working very closely with Clark and Washoe right now with their GIS folks to make a determination looking at the heat maps where our children are, and then rolling that out. So it's in process, Senator. I will say it's not done, but that information is the first step, gaining that data to better understanding where the need is, and then not only where the need is, but is it multiple fixed Wi-Fi? Is it trenching? In Lovelock, my understanding is they have been trying to go under the railroad to get some broadband into the communities, and so now we're talking about going over the railroad and looking at partnering with Nevada Energy on some flyovers that may already exist. So we're working together. I think that leadership with all of the entities to pull this out. People need to step up and make sure that we have the right information and these few dollars that are available, that is deployed properly. And we're in the process of ensuring that.
And sorry, just quickly, do you believe then that this 9 million and changes, 9.8 million, will cover all the broadband needs of our state, or is there an additional need after this?
There is a huge need after this. This is just a start. Right now, the school districts have been for a very long time able to support Wi-Fi within buildings and then also libraries. If you look at your telephone bill, you actually have a line in your telephone bill that says it's a tax that has universal services for schools and libraries. So if you haven't taken a look at that lately, you can see that money does travel up to the federal government. There is an entity called USAC, which distributes those dollars under the E-rate program. But what has transpired is that is based on the learning units being the school building and or community libraries. Unfortunately, learning now is happening in the home. So at the federal level, our state board is also going to write letters, and I've spoken with several of our federal members to really push the shift in policy and how those dollars are used, because this is a long-term need, and it's just a lot of people have been comparing it to electricity. We expect our families and our homes to have electricity and water. We should expect that our families and homes have access to the internet.
Thank you, Senator. I think I'll go ahead and go to Ms. Benitez Thompson next. And we do have approximately 4 people in the queue, just to make everyone aware. Ms. Benitez Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And so what I'll do is there are folks with other questions. I have a couple questions, but I'll kind of stay in one area for now. And I thank you for the ability to ask the question. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the pending contract with Instructure and then other dollars that look like they're being used for statewide learning management system. So with the Instructure contract of the 1.9 million, is that part of or separate from the 4.6 that is also going to be used for statewide learning management system?
It's one and the same, Assemblywoman.
You're going to spend half of it now, and then you'll hold off the other amount to for like a contract in year 2, or we just talk about kind of the I guess the total use of that money then.
Yes, so what you have before you for we're seeking approval is for FY21, and then the additional half will come before you for FY22. These GEAR dollars need to be expended by September 30th, 2022. Was that helpful?
That is, and so the contract with Instructure, it is just a 1-year contract then with the option to amend and just re-up?
It is a 2-year contract that we asked for, and that strategically we know that moving into this environment, it is not one and done. It's a multi-year process. I worked closely with the superintendents in making a determination to move in this direction, and that's what to support our students and family. The first year, if you're looking, I think in the backup material, thank you. In the first year, the contract, we know that spinning up, we have 500,000 children in our state, and we cannot onboard the entire state. And some school districts have indicated that they are going to currently remain with some of the tools that they have.
Can I ask about that piece real quick? Because I did have a follow-up question about that, but since we'll go there. So it sounds like year 1's going to be onboarding some students, year 2 will be onboarding students or districts. So I'm kind of naive about a lot of the curriculum opportunities out there. Like I see such a small snapshot as a parent. Like I only see what my kids use, right? It's like I've seen I think I had 3 of my 4 children who got to learn Microsoft Teams, and we got to learn Microsoft Teams, especially like the 2nd grader access Microsoft Teams. So is this Instructure a program that will complement districts in the program that they currently have, or is the department buying a new set of programs to offer up to districts?
Great question. So right now, not only does the NSHE use Instructure, but the Clark County School District has been using Instructure for over 6 years for their delivery of online learning. Also, several of the regional professional development programs have been using Instructure. And I apologize, I can't remember off the top of my head if it's Humboldt and or Churchill or both. I do know Elko has also been using this tool. So it's.
I guess does it make sense then? Like, I guess I'm wondering the thought behind supporting districts where they're at in the products they've been using versus onboarding new systems and programs that people already know. So like it makes sense if Clark County's been using Instructure and that's what teachers and parents and kids know, like how is there a way to support them in their contract with that, but then the other school districts that use other products that everyone's become familiar with, how supporting them in the cost of those products?
So it's a multi-layered approach, which is awesome. You're speaking my language. The RPDPs we've been working with, as well as the individual school districts. And so it's not a rip and replace, it's to blend and expand what we already have. And what the beauty about using Instructure in this new realm is they have also too what's called the Commons. So Utah, North Carolina, and Wyoming currently use this tool as statewide. And what they've created over this last year was the Commons, where if we put our curriculum up, Utah puts theirs up, we can all use each other's curriculum, content, and resources. And so we're capitalizing off of resources that are not only here in Nevada, but also nationally. And so we're really excited about those opportunities to work with colleagues across the United States and here locally and support that choice that you talk about. Washoe is using Microsoft Teams. They will continue to use components of Microsoft Teams. But if there's coursework that's available in Infinite Campus that they do not have, they will have access to that as well to expand their current portfolio beyond the current resources that they have.
Okay, thank you so much. And then I interrupted you and I apologize for that because I saw, wait a minute, I was thinking about that and wanted to ask about the Instructure and how it folds in with other tools that districts are using. You were in the middle of talking about the onboarding of the 2-year contract. So the deliverables from the contract, the deliverables in the contract for year 1, and then the deliverables in the contract for year 2.
So we, thank you, hired project managers are part of the contract as well as content developers because we have a short window, as you all know, before school starts. So that service is in the initial contract with 2 members to join us across the state to do this work, along with the digital engineers that I spoke to earlier. This first-year contract, we requested for 200,000 licenses. That would cover grades 6 through 12. Again, knowing that we already have content that exists across the state that we can use and collaborate and expand rather quickly, as well as all of the advanced placement courses that we can now offer statewide. And so the 200,000 licenses would support the 612 environment, all of the regional professional development programs, the staff here in NDE, as well as other entities that will provide support for our families and children, wraparound services, those pieces. Then we expanded in the contract to 450,000 students for year 2. And so that's the proposal as it sits now.
And so in year 1, those 200 licenses, does that cover 100% of the 6th through 12th graders? Statewide, 80%, 70%?
It's roughly about 80%. I would like to get back to you with a specific student count, but I believe off the top of my head that is correct.
That's good. A ballpark is absolutely fine. And if you want to follow up, I imagine that in year 2 we get to 100% of students covered by a license, and then some, right? Because we've got 500,000-ish kids in K through 12, but then we'll have 650,000 licenses. So it seems like that would be 100%.
So
but I'm not for staff.
I apologize. It's 200 this year total and 450 next year total. So that is a determination that not all students may participate, but if we need to expand the contract, then we will.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Ms. Ebert.
Oops, sorry about that. I was muted. So I will go ahead and go to Senator Kieckhofer next.
Hey, Madam Chair, I appreciate that. It's good to see you, Madam Superintendent. I had a couple of follow-up questions on that. So there's no plan to mandate all districts adopt the Instructure elements?
Senator Kieckhofer, that is correct. This is not a mandate, it's an opt-in.
And so we're paying for a fixed number of licenses. If districts don't choose to use this system, are we able to bring back some of those fees?
Yes, sir.
And then I'm trying to sort of differentiate. So the instruction, the Canvas system, right? That's sort of the student-facing learning platform that they'll engage with over distance instruction, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then so is Discovery, bolt-on system to that, or is that a separate platform that students then have to go to?
Thank you. I've been reminded I'm Superintendent Ebert for the record. So Discovery can be used in both ways. It can stand alone and it can integrate into Infinite Campus. And so that's what's the beauty about the tool, as Assemblywoman noted earlier, that if a district is using Microsoft Teams, they still have access and you can use the Discovery tools as well. So it's very flexible.
All students statewide will have access to the Discovery tools, regardless of what LMS platform their district is using.
Thank you. Yes, 100% of our students in the state and families will have access to the Discovery tools in a short order if this is approved.
And I noticed as well in the Discovery contract that it includes summer school for summer that's over. Is there a need for that still as a part of the contract?
Thank you, Senator, for that question. Superintendent Ebert, for the record, we as a team had initially put forth this work program prior to the summer, when summer was going to be an option. So it is, as today as we sit, that is not part of what we're paying for. but yes, I learned that it was in the work program that you received.
Okay, but it's been pulled out of the account.
Correct.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it. Sorry to continue.
Thank you, Senator Kiefer. I'll go ahead and go to Senator Dennis next is in the queue.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can, Senator.
Okay, perfect. Sieber, the question I have is on all three of these. Well, the instructor one is more meant for management, but the Discovery and Infinite Campus is one that's also used not only by teachers, but also by students and parents. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Superintendent Ebert, for the record, yes, that is correct.
Thank you. So when it comes to, we've got professional development for teachers, but is there support in this for helping parents to understand the software, and if they have issues, is there support for them on what they need, who they need to call, those kinds of things?
So as part of the ESSER dollars that you approved during your last meeting, we're hoping those folks that are applying with the wraparound services will also provide supports. We're also working with other entities to support our families. The Public Education Foundation is one that has stepped up in providing support for families on how to log into Infinite Campus, for instance. That's our tool that we've been using for a very long time as a state. So we have a lot of entities that are stepping up.
If broadcast staff, I believe Senator Gocochea hit the share button. If you could bring us back to a normal screen, broadcast services. Thank you very much. Please proceed, Ms. Ebert. We had a little technical button glitch.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So to round out that response, families through this entire process have been top of mind, as well as our State Board of Education, to make sure that actually was at the top of their priorities, support for parents, families, and communities through this process.
Thank you. So on the technology side, is the plan to get a device to each child and not just one per family?
Superintendent Ebert, for the record, yes, I have personally spoken with all 17 superintendents, as well as the Public School Charter Authority. And that is the goal, to make sure every single child, not just one per family, does have a device across our state.
Great, thank you. And then when it comes to the broadband access, you mentioned NV Energy helping you with some being over the railroad. Are you guys looking into other technology to provide broadband, such as broadband over electric lines, or working with public television to do wireless through their digital lines that they have? Are we looking into those kind of things also?
Superintendent Ebert, for the record, we have had a lot of conversations with Reno PBS as well as Vegas PBS on their technologies that they have. I have not had the opportunity to speak with anyone about broadband over power. I believe that in the education environment, we need to make sure we're tapping into those. You think about we have the Air Force Base in the South, right? What logistics can they help provide at this point in time during this crisis? So we need to call upon folks that are in our state, the best and brightest, to make sure that we're setting this up for success, and not only short-term success, but long-term success. We need to do our due diligence in all of that, and also keeping our minds on that there will be changing technologies as we move forward.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And thank you, Senator Dennis. I'll go ahead and go to Assemblywoman Neal. And I have not had anyone reach out to me to be in the queue after Assemblywoman Neal, so I will assume this is the last round of questions. Assemblywoman?
Thank you, Chairwoman. So I had a question on the Canvas, basically. So in terms of Canvas, because I've used Canvas before, how are you guys going to allow people to like access the library? In the conversation with Anita Thompson, you were talking about the commons. So also there's a feature where if you have access to a library system or the library, they can, students can access articles or teachers can attach a library documents that have been attached to the library into their assignments or modules. So have you had a discussion around like this current library system that we have and the interconnection there to make sure that there's at least rigor within the system? And then I have two more questions.
Thank you, Assemblywoman Neal, and I'm glad that you've had the opportunity to use the tool, Superintendent Ebert, for the record. And so the commons and having access to the resources and expanding them across the state is absolutely the goal. I can't tell you that that would be the first layer of getting the system up and running, but definitely is on the project management out after we get people in the tool, using the tool with fidelity.
Yeah, because some of the things that you have to do, like if a teacher is trying to use like Washington Post or Los Angeles Times, like you have to already have those subscriptions through the library system. And so there's some like, I would just say mechanical things that probably, you know, conversations that need to take place to make sure that if teachers say, I want to add on to content, they need to have the access to do that. But if the library doesn't have those subscriptions, they won't be able to do that. And so I wanted to bring that up only because I'm super familiar with it because I use it every semester. And then my second question was around Discovery Education. I remember Discovery Education being around in the school system, CCSE, a while ago, but I don't remember it having a lot of rigor, right? Like it was good for K-3, but if you really wanted to take your accelerated students and try to use the digital library, the digital library didn't have enough rigor or content that I felt really pushed kids to a level where they could, you know, go beyond a basic thought. You know what I'm saying? Like I thought it was really simplistic. I thought a lot of the video content was simplistic as well. So has it changed since like, I don't know, 2010?
Yes, Superintendent Ebert, for the record, it has changed immensely. And so as you were speaking, I'm thinking that, you know, we can have a session for the legislators that would like to actually see a demonstration. Really excited about not only the rigor that's been added, but the additional supports. I had the digital engineers review it, which they are across the entire state prior to making this recommendation as supplemental materials and resources. Really impressed, back to several of the committee members' questions, resources for parents, multilingual access, so multiple languages, as well as various grade levels of resources. And so we will make sure that, I will make sure that there's the opportunity, multiple opportunities for you as our elected officials to review that. But we did have teachers go in and that some of the teachers remembered when it was called United Streaming. It is nothing like the 2010 version.
And then my final question, Chairwoman, for homeschooling, there are a lot of parents that are basically now going to be homeschooling. So I've been getting questions about how they're going to get training, what are the support systems that they have, because a lot of the parents, they were traditional, get their kid on a bus parents, and now they want to take control of their kids' education, and they don't really know, number one, the process, number two, what are the sports, number three, how they themselves get access to these tools so they can then, I guess, teach their own kids or the tutoring support that may be out there. And I was wondering if you could address that.
So you had three questions, Superintendent Ebert, for the record. The one on process is actually working with the school district to identify that they are going to become a homeschool family students. I guess first and foremost is that I would encourage them to remain with the public school system. As we know, there's a lot of shifts, and I'll stop there. The second one, in supports, we as a state have not, private schools, the separation of private schools and the public schools, we have, as a state, have not provided resources like this to the private schools. In this instance, they are not on Infinite Campus, which is the base for us to be. We're very fortunate that we have a statewide student information system. I would not be able to tell you that we'll have this up and running in a short period of time if we did not have one system that all of our children are in. And when I say all of our children, I mean all of the public school children, as well as the charter school authority children and charter schools as well, all on one system. So when those systems connect, those children will have access. And so these funds were not scaled to homeschool students.
Thank you, Chair.
You're welcome, Assemblywoman. So with my comment that we thought we were just about done, I have one more person ask a question. So I'll go ahead and go to Assemblywoman Titus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I had reached out to Cindy, so I apologize I wasn't in your queue earlier. I have some questions regarding the access, and just want to make sure that, as you said, Infinite Campus is available to all school districts. And it doesn't matter what platform they're in, so that Infinite Campus is available, correct? Is that correct?
The Infinite Campus is thank you, Assemblywoman. Superintendent Ebert, for the record. Infinite Campus is our student information system that has all of our grades, attendance, health records, IEP. I'm sorry, I don't know that all the school districts have their IEPs in it, but it is the information system that we use for all of our reporting components, not only at the state level and the federal level, but also to parents. So that's our base.
That's separate than the Discovery Education platform that you're now going to be purchasing and make available throughout the state, regardless of what school district, regardless of where they're located, providing they have adequate internet access, correct? Mm-hmm. That connectivity availability, that's kind of the rub in some of the areas?
That is correct, Assemblywoman.
Well, as you may know, I do IEPs for the Lyon County School District, and one of the things I'm concerned about that I constantly hear about in this kind of online formats, homeschooling, is where are we connecting with our special needs kids, those kids who have IEPs, those kids who need speech therapy, those kids who need some other instructions. Is there anything built into this particular education format that will allow those needs? Because I think that's what parents reach out to me the most, is there's special needs kids that need more than, looking at a computer program. And is that factored into any of this?
I thank you so much, Superintendent Ebert, for the record, for that question. I apologize. Our differently abled students will have access to the discovery tools. They're building those components out, but they already do have language components. And I can get you a list specifically, the whole body, a list specifically of in that area with our differently abled students. In the Instructure, the learning management system, we will be building out supports for our educators, in turn helping our children. So a lot of, right now, OSERLI as well, one of our departments, and working with Will, you can take current content that we have across the state and put it into Infinite Campus, put it into the LMS Instructure. And so that's what we're trying to do, is create the one-stop shop for parents, for teachers, for administrators, to be able to create a system that is sustainable over time. So yes, we have not lost sight of our differently abled students and the educators that support them.
So one more question, if I might, Madam Chair.
Yes, please, go ahead.
So along the same lines, we have federal funds that are, and certain requirements to get those federal funds, especially with our uniquely needy or our special needs children. So will this satisfy that requirement? So we're not in danger of losing any of those federal funds and those federal requirements of so much contact. And so the federal government, this will meet that criteria?
Assemblywoman Titus, Superintendent Ebert, for the record, this is not a tool to meet those specific requirements, but can be used based on a student's IEP to support the students. So I don't want to mislead in saying, this tool is going to support all children in all of their IEPs. It is an additional resource to what the resources currently made available at the school districts.
All right, so it's across spectrum with what I'm hearing, and thank you, Madam Chairwoman. So we have this kind of titrated to the education, because we're hearing that certain kids are good on the computers and certain kids are not, depends on the age group. And so one of the things about a program like this, and we heard a question a little bit earlier about, I think Assemblywoman Neal asked a question about, was great for the up to third grade, and after that didn't really challenge. So I'm encouraged to hear that the good things about this is that it will be full access throughout our state, whether urban or rural, providing you have the broadband. And we know that our urban kids have just as much problem as far as the access. Sometimes they don't have, the connectivity regardless of where you live. So it's statewide, all from K through 12. You've encompassed all the education programs. It's more challenging than what it had been in the past. And so I just appreciate you trying to look out for the needs of our Nevada students. So thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Titus. So with that, I have not seen any other questions in the queue. I was going to go ahead and go to Ms. Benitez Thompson. She had a comment to close us out, but I just got a message from Senator Kickheffer. So Senator, if you have something very brief, and then I do want to finish up with Ms. Benitez Thompson, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Very brief. Ms. Heber, if we're picking up these licensing costs, does that then alleviate the district's costs and they're going to save money if we're picking up these 250,000 licenses for this year?
Thank you, Senator. Not for all of the costs. For instance, some school districts just had a portion for grade level of licenses, and now they're moving to K-12. So as I explained earlier, for year one, we're doing 612 in Infinite Campus, to the point of others that have been brought up, 612 ready to move forward with. So it doesn't replace the cost for all of the licenses for all of the entities, because they may be using it in other grades.
I was thinking more about Canvas rather than Infinite Campus. So Clark County, has their LMS. If we're picking up those 250,000 licenses, does that mean that?
Thank you, Superintendent Ebert, for the record. They did not have 200, in those grades, they did not have enough licenses to serve all of those children. I believe they had approximately 50,000 licenses.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you, Senator. And so Ms. Benitez Thompson, you had a comment, and then I believe we'll need to move on. Thank you.
Yeah, yes, it'll be quick. I just was thinking much more about the instructure and I guess the approach to say that the Department of Education is going to kind of buy products and make them available to the district. And I see, or in certain instances, that's really helpful. But I do think that as we move forward, should we be so fortunate enough to receive more federal blocks of dollars that come down, it just seems to me to make sense to meet the districts where they're at and say, okay, as opposed to us buying a product and making it available to you, block granting these dollars down to the district so that they can enhance what they're doing. Because it sounds like, and I'm just taking instructure as an example, we know of 2 counties who are using this. That means 15 counties may or may not be, and some of them are not. So while it helps to say we're going to, within the next 2 years, buy 450 licenses, if the counties aren't using this product right now or don't plan to, or they want to make enhancements into the systems that they have right now, then we're just going to end up with a contract for 450 licenses, potentially half that don't get used. So I just, and then along the comment that Assemblywoman Neal made, I was thinking about this a little differently as opposed to homeschooling, being a parent who's now schooling from home, like as much consistency as we can have around programs and applications that kids are using, and then just helping our parent community dive deeper. I don't necessarily think it's helpful for, your second grader and your kindergarten to have a bunch of different applications they have to learn and then say the department is offering a new application. I think families are going to work really hard and struggle to say, I became familiar with this one platform, please do not give me any more. You know what I mean? And so I really think it's the time to dive deep versus going new.
And thank you, Ms. Benitez Thompson. And, this moment in time, I am so glad that my children are grown. I cannot imagine what parents are facing right now. So I really appreciate all the great questions on this. This is a new world for us in the state of Nevada, and we want to make sure that every kid is involved in it. So thank you all very much. So if I don't see any other questions from any other committee members, I believe we could go ahead and move forward on processing this item C1. If there are no other comments at the time. Hearing no other comments or seeing no other hands raised, I would go ahead and accept a motion to process this item from Vice Chair Woodhouse and a second from Ms. Benitez Thompson. Are there any questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none, seeing none, I would ask Ms. Jones to go ahead and call the roll, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Yes.
Assemblyman Frierson.
Yes.
Assemblyman Hambrick.
Yes.
Assemblywoman Howdy.
Yes.
Assemblyman Kramer.
Yes.
Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno.
Yes.
Assemblywoman Neal.
Yes.
Assemblywoman Spiegel.
Yes.
Assemblywoman Monk.
Yes.
Assemblywoman Swank.
Yes.
Assemblywoman Backus.
Yes.
Assemblywoman Titus.
Yes.
Assemblyman Wheeler.
Yes.
Chair Carlton.
Yes.
Senator Brooks.
Yes.
Senator Cancella.
Yes.
Senator Dennis.
Yes.
Senator Goycochea.
If I can get it on. Yes, I'm afraid to touch anything. Thank you.
Senator Keycapper.
Yes, ma'am.
Senator Parks.
Yes.
Senator Settlemeyer.
Yes.
Senator Woodhouse.
Yes.
Motion passes, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jones. And if I could just do a brief reminder to all the committee members, please do remember to mute when you can, when you're comfortable. If you're unmuted, just keep that in the back of your mind. And if you please keep your cameras on so that we can make sure that we always have a quorum and there isn't an issue. Since we're working virtually, we have to be able to verify that there are enough members in the committee to be able to move forward and process the items. So when you can, keep your cameras on, please. So with that, we'll go ahead and go to item number 2, Department of Business and Industry, Housing, the account for low-income housing. This is the rental assistance program that will be funded through some CARES Act dollars. If we could go ahead and queue up our first presenter, I believe from the Department of Housing. Yes, please go ahead.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Steve Acroft, Administrator of the Nevada Housing Division. I want to thank the committee for consideration of this work program, which will provide much needed rental assistance to Nevada families impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic and their resulting economic hardships. This program will provide $30 million from the coronavirus relief funds to provide stability in the rental market and, most importantly, ensure the safety of Nevadans by keeping a roof over their heads during these times. Early on in this process, it was evident that Clark County was going to use some of its direct allocated CRF for a rental assistance program. And so as we have oversight over the entire state, it made sense to us to effectively use the same parameters they were using for rental assistance for consistency. It didn't make a lot of sense to build a freeway next to a freeway that was already being built. And the key to the use of these funds for rental assistance is flexibility and timing as they expire on December 30th. With Clark County already engaged, we needed to ensure the rest of the state was going to be covered. We administer existing programs with a couple of entities, so we engaged both the Nevada Rural Housing Authority and the Reno Housing Authority to accomplish this. Both entities are well-versed and have existing assistance program, and it dramatically simplified the communications and agreements we need to have in place to get the money out to those who so desperately need it. By using their already established geographic parameters, we can ensure there will not be a duplication of assistance, as any household within a specific county will only be assisted by the agencies serving that county. In Clark, that will be Clark County Social Services, in Washoe, the Reno Housing Authority, and in the 15 rural counties, Nevada Rural Housing Authority. I would also be remiss not to acknowledge on the record the level of collaboration we have received with them. In fact, they've all agreed to testify before you if necessary, and the amount of discussions and everything that we've gone through with this program, it's really, really exciting to see the engagement and their enthusiasm for getting the program out. Per the program parameters, RHA, Reno Housing Authority, will receive $5 million of the funding. Nevada Rural Housing Authority will receive $5 million in addition, and the balance of $20 million will be reserved for Clark County. I would also like the committee to be aware that in each of the agreements is a clawback provision. So if we need to reallocate those funds based on either a lack of demand or an overwhelming demand, we have that ability. The last point I'd like to make is the eviction moratorium stopped the clock, but it didn't stop time. Rent is still due, landlords need to meet their obligations, and renters need to stay sheltered for the benefit of all Nevadans given the health challenges we are seeing. With that high-level oversight, I will turn it over to Treasurer Conine for some introductory comments.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Good morning, Madam Chair and committee members. I'm Treasurer Zach Conine, and I'm here today to provide some brief testimony on behalf of this work program, which will transfer $30 million in coronavirus relief funds to the Division of Housing to provide a residential relief program. At the outset, I'd like to thank my colleagues in the Housing Department for the important feedback of members of this legislative body and others, and Governor Sisolak for the faith that we can get this program up and running as quickly as we're about to with your support. We know that many families have been hit hard by the economic effects of COVID-19. Executive Directive 008 was successful in helping Nevada residents remain in their homes during the COVID-19 pandemic. However, now that the moratorium is in the beginning stages of being lifted back, Nevada must take steps to avoid a potential backlog of missed rent payments resulting in a wave of evictions throughout the state. In working with the Division of Housing, our goal is to stand up a program that is easy to understand, easy to apply for, and will ensure landlords get paid back as quickly as possible. As indicated by the Nevada Housing Division, they will administer the program in coordination with local housing authority, local housing assistance programs, such as Clark County Social Services, the Reno Housing Authority, and the Nevada Rural Housing Authority. The statewide administration of the program will ensure standardization of rental relief available to tenants in southern, northern, and rural Nevada. Funds will be paid directly to the landlord on the tenant's behalf. They're offered as a grant to eligible Nevada tenants, therefore not being required to be paid back under the guidance from the federal treasury on the coronavirus relief fund. Our office is committed to working with housing to provide any support they may need in getting the program stood up as effectively and as quickly as possible. That concludes my brief remarks. Thank you so much for your time this morning, and I'm happy to answer any questions from the committee.
Thank you, Treasurer. I guess before we go too much further, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page, because in the packet that I received, there's also on page 2.9, there's a discussion of a commercial provision to pay commercial lease payments. Is that part of the discussion this morning on this particular work program?
No, ma'am, that will be coming up in a separate work program shortly through the Governor's Office of Economic Development.
So that's not on the agenda today then, but it's included in our packet.
I'm not sure what's in your packet, ma'am. I believe that might have been an original memo that we had prepared advocating for both programs, but today we're only talking about the first tranche, the $30 million in residential rental assistance.
Okay, I just want to make sure that everybody's kind of on the same page. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and just get a couple of clarifying questions out of the way, and then I do have some members who have questions. And in the interest of full disclosure to the committee and to the public, and we are a citizens legislature in my private life, the nonprofit that I'm an executive director of does do rental assistance and has done rental assistance for, I think, close to almost 25 years. So we understand how important this is, and we also understand how difficult it can be and some of the challenges that can happen when you're trying to provide this type of assistance. So if I could just clarify that one of the documents that I have, I believe is talking about a 5% indirect as far as these funds go, but I believe I had heard it was a 10% indirect. So if someone could clarify that for me. And as far as indirect goes, committee members, it's basically the admin fee.
Thank you for the question, Chair. It is a 10% admin fee, which is typical of what we provide to these agencies when they administer our other programs.
Okay, thank you very much. I do appreciate that. And it's my understanding that you will be able to assist to get folks on an even keel. So even if they've got 2 to 3 months in arrears, and we're looking at trying to stabilize them through the eviction moratorium timeframe, you will be able to assist them with possibly 3, 4, 5 months worth of assistance.
Again, Steve Acroft for the record, that is affirmative. We modeled this after the Clark County Rental Assistance Program, and you can go up to arrears all the way back into April and potentially March, depending on what the COVID effect was on the applicant.
Correct. And these dollars do need to be spent by December the 30th. And I did hear you say there would be a clawback provision. So there will be monthly or bi-monthly monitoring to make sure that money is being extended. And if someone's having a harder time spending it, it's going faster on another tranche, you would be able to shift those dollars to address those needs.
That is correct.
Okay, all righty. I think that pretty much covers what I have. Oh, I do have one other one in committee. I'm sorry, but so I know one of the difficulties we've had in Southern Nevada with the Emergency Food and Shelter Program dollars is we do have citizens that don't necessarily have a lease per se. They have a rental agreement, and the person that they're renting from may not have the W-9. What type of guidance will you be giving to the folks receiving this money on how they should handle that? Because we know we have a lot of people with cohabitation, there's a lot of different ways to pay for the roof over your head. So what type of guidance will you be giving on that?
So, Steve Acroft again for the record. We will be requiring a current lease agreement. We will be requiring some rent roll, some proof that those folks have resided there. And we will be requiring a W-9 to be filed with the division. And with the chair's permission, if Kristen Cooper from Clark County would like to kind of chime in on that, I would appreciate it.
And that's great. And Ms. Cooper, nice to see you. But I just wanted to make sure that we were all working under the same guidelines and everyone was aware that this program helps a lot of folks, but there are some folks out there that are kind of outside the silo.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Welcome.
Okay, great, thank you. Kristen Cooper, Clark County Social Service. We currently they have to submit a W-9. That's part of this. And so if there are special circumstances, that is something that then I think as a group there's 14 agencies that we're working with, that we would need to have a discussion with everybody if that becomes an issue and figure out what we could do, because currently they have to have a W-9.
Okay, and thank you. And Ms. Cooper, if I could have you clarify one other thing for me, and then I'll turn it over to my committee members who have questions. I know as far as the state's concerned, when it comes to income, we do not count Medicaid as income. We had that discussion in one of our presentations here while we were in special session. How is the county viewing the $600 extras in unemployment as far as income goes? I know Medicaid will not count that against you for qualifying. How is Clark County viewing that $600? I know you have an income requirement that you're looking at and a reserve requirement for those particular folks that they can have no more than $3,000 in a checking or savings account. How are you looking at that $600 bump through unemployment?
Again, Kristen Cooper for the record, we are counting that as income. And however, our income max is 120% of area median, which is, if somebody's getting 600 on top of, let's say 400, that's 4,000 a month, they're still going to qualify under the 120% of area median.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cooper. I was hoping you would put that on the record for us today, just to make sure people understood. We're looking for a way to spend this. We're looking for ways to say yes. We're not looking for ways to say no. So thank you very much for all the flexibility Clark County has put into this program. So with that, I do have some members and committee. Thank you very much for the latitude to be able to get some of those things out. I think I'd like to go to Ms. Spiegel first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So my question is related to, I know that Las Vegas got federal dollars to help with housing assistance, but Henderson and North Las Vegas and other parts of the state did not. And I was wondering if priority would be given to people who do not qualify for other programs, such as the program that the city of Las Vegas is putting together.
This is Steve Acroft. For the record, as my understanding is right now, the city of Las Vegas has put a pause on their program. They allocated $4 million worth of funding to this program. They are not currently accepting applications. When an individual receives that money, that will be counted. And so if that's, to go back to the chair's first question in arrears, if that goes and covers their arrears, they will be eligible going forward, provided that assistance did not cover their rents upcoming.
Okay, but overall, if that program does go forward, there would, let's say, be a priority for people who don't have access to another program? It's all just first come, first served?
It is first come, first served, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And so with that, I believe I can go to Ms. Benitez Thompson. Our question?
Thank you. Sorry, I just had to switch between screens there. So my questions are in the line of applicability throughout the state to ensure we kind of have, I would hope, like common application questions that are going to be asked. I could print off and see the Clark County Social Services application program. So I saw that 5-page application and the questions that are being asked. The one thing I really like about this one, that's a big difference from what I see from the Division of Housing. And Mr. Acroft, I know that your application's online, and so I would have to start an application myself in order to see what questions are going to be asked. If a paper version could be made available, I think that that's really helpful to make referrals, such as social workers or other nonprofit organizations, to be able to just download a paper copy. So I can't tell if the questions being asked specifically, but I do know in another program you have with like for help with the down payment, the security deposit in rentals. In that application, you require the social security number for all adults at the age of 18, which to me just really seems like it would be a barrier for families who are looking to apply. I would hope that in the state's rental application process, that it would mirror a lot more like Clark County's, where it's asking questions like that. It's simply requiring that you provide the lease. And as long as the applicant's name and ID is matching the name on the lease, then we're good to go without having to have the entire family or those under the roof submitting the applications. Mm-hmm. And then on for the city of the Reno Housing Authority, I see a couple different places where these program dollars might lie. And so I wanted clarification. I didn't know, because they've got a landlord program and they have their traditional HUD programs. So I imagine for the Reno Housing Authority, they will have a new application and a new process specific to these dollars. But I just didn't want to work from that assumption. And I didn't know if someone can tell me, are they gonna, put pieces of this into their landlord side where landlords can apply for the money, or if this is going to be all applicant driven?
Thank you for the questions. I will defer to Amy Jones at Reno Housing Authority to answer specifically what their process will be.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. For this program, it will be applicant driven. So we will have a specific application on our webpage for.
I could ask you to pause for just a second. We're getting a lot of echo.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
There's another monitor on, but if you could try again, that'd be great.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, that's better.
Okay. So we will have a specific application for this program, and it will be applicant driven.
Okay, thank you. So then it'll be a new application type. And then do you have a time frame for when that might be available for folks in Reno?
That is available now, and I'd be happy to get a copy to anyone who would like to review that.
Yeah, that would be great. I was playing around on the setting for it, and I probably missed it. I did see the traditional 5-page application for just to sign up for services, so I didn't know if it was going to be that application or if it would be broken out. And then Mr. Acroft, I saw that on the housing division site, you guys set up that chat, the CARES Housing Assistance Program. So Social Security numbers.
Yeah, that Steve Acroft, for the record, we don't have that application. I think you're referring to the one at the Nevada Rural Housing Authority because they already have their chat page up. So I'll turn it over to Bill Brewer, Executive Director of the Nevada Rural Housing Authority.
Hello, Mr. Brewer.
Thank you, Steve. Bill Brewer, Nevada Rural Housing Authority. Hope you can hear me okay.
No, you need to speak up, please.
Sorry about that. My microphone's not cooperating today. We have automated our process so we have not the full paper application form. Our questions will mirror those that are being used by Clark County, but we will be using the automated process. If applicants need assistance with that, of course, we stand ready to help them with whatever they may need. And then we'll collect, the data we collect will not be as complex as the data we collect for a Section 8 applicant, for example, but will only address this program.
Okay, thank you. And it would just be my request if you could stick a paper application up, having worked in rural areas with rural persons before. I know it's just easier for community providers to sometimes paper application in hand. That way you can help talk people through their application and help expedite the process of what documents they might need and helping them bird dog documents. And then also people who just, can tend to be lower functioning or need more assistance. And with the paper application, you can have a community provider helping them with that. So I'll give an example of like the wonderful senior center out there in Silver Springs, Nevada, like how their staff will be helpful in helping people complete applications versus asking a very, elderly or medically fragile person to do it all on their own online. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Apologize, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Bill Brewer again with the Nevada Rural Housing Authority. We're happy to do that as required, and would certainly hope to assist those folks in getting their applications completed. Online, it's our experience that it goes much more quickly and effectively if we can help them through that process.
Okay. I believe everyone heard you. I could. I think we're okay. With that, I can go to Assemblywoman Neal next.
Madam Chair. So I had a question, and I don't know if it's to ACROF or the county, but what I heard folks say was that there are going to be 14 agencies that you're going to be working with, but what's not clear is how North Las Vegas residents will be able to participate through Clark County in terms of the program. Is there going to be some sub-granting to North Las Vegas, or are there specific nonprofits that operate in North Las Vegas that are going to receive the funds?
This is Kristen Cooper, Clark County Social Service, and I can answer that, Madam Chair, if that's okay.
Thank you.
All right. So these funds, because we are Clark County Social Service and we serve all of Southern Nevada, these funds are available to anyone in Southern Nevada. It doesn't matter what jurisdiction they live in. There are also agencies that are specifically located in North Las Vegas who have received some of this funding. We have 14 agencies in all. So they're actually scattered throughout Southern Nevada, and we'll be providing this assistance from Las Vegas, North Las Vegas, Henderson, up to Mesquite, down to Laughlin.
And then my second question is, you said you were going to count the 600, but the 600 ends on July 25th. So how will that be reviewed if because I don't know when this program is going to start. So let's say application is put in on 7/26, and then you know that the 600 is going to dry up. How then will the review happen?
So that will not preclude them. So if somebody's getting 600, unless they would have to get a substantial amount of unemployment that just the state doesn't allow, they would still qualify under this. So the 600 is not going to stop them generally from qualifying for these funds. And then of course, when the funds go away, then they're in an even worse position. So that's why we did this program for such a long period and made it available, not just for 1 month, but for many months, so that if somebody needs to come back to us, or if the agencies in advance can see that this person is getting the PUA and that it's going, I think we all know it's going to expire, at least for right now, then they would, they can sort of pre-commit those funds to help in the following month. Unless, of course, they end up going back to work or finding a job. And even then, we look backwards for the assistance. So we wouldn't be penalizing somebody if they were to suddenly get their job. We want to help them get back on their feet. We're trying to make this as liberal as possible to not have the damage that we had after the 2008 recession, where people took years and years and years to recover. We're trying to ameliorate that in our small way.
Chair.
You're welcome, Ms. Neal. So with that, I believe I have Ms. Howdige with a question next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just have a couple quick questions, and this might be premature, but is there any way to be able to tell about how many Nevada households will be able to assist?
This is Steve Acroft with the Housing Division. I wish I could answer that question. It's the $1 million question. So to go back to what was stated earlier, the goal is to get folks who are in arrears caught up. There is not necessarily a cap on it. So if we have to go back, and provide 3 months of assistance at just, for simple math, $1,000 for those 3 months, that person is getting, $3,000 and then maybe a little bit going forward. So it's not, it's not a flat, State of Alaska, as an example, is doing a flat $1,200 with $10 million of assistance. So they know the math on that is they're going to help 8,000 residents. We don't have that number based off that. We know the need is hugely dramatic. And we're going to do the best we can to get it out to those folks.
And Chairwoman, if I could add on to that.
Yes, please.
Treasurer Conan, for the record, Assemblywoman, I think that a good way to think about it is average rent for a 2-bedroom in the state of Nevada is around $1,200. So this would provide about 25,000 months of rent.
Okay, thank you. Follow up, Madam Chair?
Yes, Ms. Howdige.
Thank you. And just another quick question following up on that. You guys will be requesting lease agreements. Will the payments need to be made directly to the landlord on the lease agreement, or will the payments be made directly to the applicant?
Steve Acroft, for the record, the payments will go directly to the landlord.
And then just one last question, Madam Chair.
Sure, Ms. Howdige.
As I was going through the figures, just so I have this correctly, Clark County was awarded money and they have a program for $30 million. And on top of that, they're going to receive $20 million. So there will be a total of $50 million available in Clark County. And then $10 million dispersed throughout the rest of the state.
Steve Acroft, for the record, $20 million will be reserved for Clark County. So again, going back to where the needs may be, and I can't imagine this, but if 30 million satisfies the demand in Clark County, then we would take the balance and disperse it through the other areas of the state. But that's the way the program is going to be set up.
Okay, so that was my question. So in addition to the $20 million that we're going to be providing from the state, Clark County has an additional $30 million.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
And thank you, Ms. Howdige. And we will go to Senator Brooks, I believe is next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to follow up on Assemblywoman Howdige's question about how many households will receive assistance, and using the Alaska example. Why hasn't the division implemented a floor or a ceiling on what that payment should be to be able to kind of better determine how many households could be served?
Thank you for the question, Steve Acroft, about a housing division. The answer is twofold. Number one, that was, again, going back to Clark County was developing their program. They worked with their RS4 or disaster recovery group in determining the parameters of their program. We wanted to make sure that as a backstop, we would stay right within the lanes that they've already developed. That's number one. Number two, if we did a flat fee, going back to the Alaska example where you're providing $1,200 assistance, you can spread that potentially further to more recipients, but does $1,200 keep them in their home? And I would say the question is, to the answer to that particular question is probably not.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, I have too many things going here at once. Thank you, Senator Brooks. I believe I have Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a few questions, if that's okay.
That's fine, thank you.
I'm not sure who would like to answer this, but it's directed to Clark County. We've heard discussion after discussion after discussion when we talk about education that we do not have the internet capabilities for many of our families for their children to be able to access education. These will be some of the same families that will be hurting the most when it comes to housing assistance. Want to make sure that there's other ways for those families to access these funds other than having to go online, because if they are not able to go online, then they would not be able to access them. That's my first question. Have we thought about that? And how do we get the word out to these families? How will they know that these funds are available? What's the marketing strategy behind that? That would be my first two questions, then I have another.
Hi, sorry, Kristen Cooper, Clark County Social Service. I want to make sure that I got both questions. So a paper application is also available, and there are contact phone numbers for people to call. So they can also call and work with somebody on the phone to fill out the application online. And then if they aren't able to, if they don't have a phone where they can take a picture of their documents and send those in, that kind of thing, then they can work with the agency and they will do on-site on a scheduled basis, you know, to keep the social distancing to make sure that people are safe. So that option is available. And then marketing. Word of mouth will be what will happen, but we're also getting a hold of the Apartment Association to let them know. This is going out on our Help Hope Home website, and it's going out to all of our social service agencies that we currently have, and also have applied for funding for us for a lot of our other programs that we currently operate. And so they'll all be getting notification of this so they can let their customers and clients know that this is available. And then depending on what response we get, which we think will be a tsunami of requests, we will then take a look at, we'll be releasing a press release with information about this. So this will get out to the newspaper and our all the different media. So quite a bit. We're doing a soft opening right now because we want to make sure all of our technical difficulties that we may run into get worked out before that tsunami hits. But it's coming next week.
And this is Treasurer Conine. To add on to that from a state perspective, we'll be using earned media to get the word out. We've got resource guides in English and Spanish that we'll be able to give to community partners to be able to share, and we'll continue pounding the pavement to make sure everybody knows about it, both on the landlord side so that they can encourage their renters to do it. The landlords here being incented to find a solution, right? We think that's going to be a big source of demand into the system. And I would say to tackle Clark County's point, it was really important for us to make sure that the individual programs worked before we started encouraging a tsunami of applications, right? We don't want to have another situation where the program overpromises and underdelivers.
Follow up, Madam Chair?
Yes, Ms. Monroe Moreno.
Okay, when you said a soft opening, can you elaborate a little bit more what that would include? And then what is your targeted hard date to go live with the program?
So our targeted hard date is Monday. And we are soft open. We're like soft open right now with several of our agencies testing the systems, doing that soft opening right now. And what we have already found is that we have, they're doing pre-screening, and we have at the moment over 500, and it's quickly heading higher in terms of the number of people who have pre-applied already and are really already have been deemed, yeah, they would probably qualify. It's just a matter of getting their documentation at this point. So we're already seeing a large surge. We're expecting this to be, the city of Las Vegas, when they first opened their program, they got, I think it was 2,000 phone calls in the first day and a half, or 2,000 applicants in the first day and a half. We're expecting to triple that in our first week.
Thank you for that. So then my last question, and I guess my request more than a question, is that we want to make sure that every household that needs help is able to access help, but we also know that we're limited in the amount of funding that's available. So if there are Nevadans that had access to another program, for say the Las Vegas City program, and they were able to receive fundings from that program, is there any way, although I know you say it's first come, first serve, but any way to prioritize those families who have not received any assistance from any other source to be at the top of the list, so that at least we can make sure that each family gets something to help them with their rental assistance? We don't want to see a family lose everything while another family had all of their bills taken care of. Does that make sense? Is there a way to do that as you set up the system?
This is Kristen Cooper. At this point, we don't have that capacity. We've moved so quickly to get this out that that is not something that's built into the system, but that is something that I can take back to our 14 providers and discuss with them. Because you're right, there are going to be people who have received the money that they got through the treasurer's office that went out to the different agencies, through the cities, North Las Vegas and Las Vegas. So yes, that is something that I can take back and discuss with them.
And this is Steve Acroft from the Housing Division. If I can add additional commentary.
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. There are additional funding was provided in the CARES Act, increasing our emergency solutions grant and CDBG CV funds. So to answer your question, those come with different guardrails, but the emergency solutions grant is effectively done for homeless prevention. The expiration date on those funds is further out than the December 30th date of the coronavirus relief funds. So one thing is we want to get that funding out the door, because if it doesn't get out the door, it gets returned to the federal government. Then we can go over to the ESG funds, or the potential jurisdiction could use the CDBG CV funds to backstop this program, albeit it might be a smaller group of individuals, but they are going to be more in need. And then the last thing that I will add, when the governor issued coronavirus relief funds out to the jurisdictions and the counties, if the county wants to provide to, and I'll use NRHA as an example, if Lincoln County says, hey, we don't need all this coronavirus relief funds, they can provide it. There's nothing that says they can't kick it back to NRHA to help support a rental program. So there are various backstops along the way. It's a matter of getting this money out first and foremost.
So along those lines, those other areas where money is available, emergency money is available, would the local municipality have to apply for that funding directly, or would they have to go through the state or go through the county? How would the local municipalities access that funding to assist their residents?
Steve Acroft from the Housing Division. If Jake LaRoe is on the line from the Housing Division, if you could answer that. And how the disbursement goes for, we don't handle the CDBG, so I don't want to speak to that, but we do handle the emergency solutions grant.
Good morning, Jacob LaRoe with the Nevada Housing Division, for the record. So we currently
If you could speak up, please, you're very low.
I apologize. Is this better?
A little bit more will be great.
All right, I'll take my headphones off. Can you hear me now?
That's much better. Thank you very much.
Great. Okay. To the question, we have currently 2 meetings this week with the Governor's Office of Economic Development that administers the CDBG funds. One this afternoon at 3 o'clock that I have arranged with local jurisdictions, specifically those in Clark County, invited representatives from all the CDBG entitlement communities, Clark County, Henderson, City of Las Vegas, and City of North Las Vegas. So the plan there is to discuss what current programs the existing grantees are using their CDBG funds for, and how, and so they can inform the Governor's Office of Economic Development on how to potentially distribute those funds to local jurisdictions. Additionally, on Thursday, we have a division meeting, the Nevada Housing Division, with the Department of the Governor's Office of Economic Development, to discuss on a state level how we can assist the Governor's Office of Economic Development to coordinate the distribution of those funds. They're currently working on the formula and how to calculate how much funds to distribute. So we're basically currently working on the process on getting those out. Additionally, the Emergency Solutions Grant that Ms. Raycroft mentioned, we are in the process of our HUD, Department of Housing and Urban Development, planning to access those funds and to identify how we can get those funds out to meet the needs, potentially distribute those to cities like the city of Henderson that don't normally receive those funds, to strategically place those funds to address households that are in need.
Thank you. And Ms. Monroe Moreno, if I could, for clarification purposes, if I could ask Ms. Cooper to come back on and possibly go through the HMIS system, the Homeless Management Information System that Clark County uses. I know my agency uses that to make sure that as people are receiving service in Clark County, that we can kind of verify what services they're getting, so that we don't have folks access services on a parallel track when they shouldn't be. So Ms. Cooper, if you could clarify that, I think that might help the committee understand how Clark County handles this.
Kristen Cooper for the record. I'd be happy to, Madam Chair. So the HMIS or CMIS, Community Management Information System, the organizations, the 14 organizations that are receiving these funds are all, they currently use that system. And the funding that they received prior to this for rental assistance, that's also being tracked in HMIS. So all these agencies will be able to go in and see if somebody has already received assistance somewhere else. And there are going to be people who are going to apply, even though we tell them not to apply at multiple places, that it will slow down their application. But I'm sure there will be people who will apply in multiple agencies. That's what CMIS is for, HMIS is for, is to allow the agencies to go in, see that, and then be able to figure out who is going to actually adjudicate a particular application. What's been great about this whole thing is that these organizations are working extremely cooperatively together. We've already discussed that if a particular agency is overrun with applications, that we will be able to take those applications and transfer them to other agencies that may not be overrun or oversubscribed. And that all will happen through HMIS.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Cooper. And Ms. Monroe Moreno, did you have another follow-up, I believe?
I just had one last question. So I know a number of us are getting emails and calls from our constituents, property managers, and landlords. Where can we direct them? What phone number can them or location to go to pick up the paper application for this program?
Steve Acroft, Administrator of Nevada Housing Division. From an online standpoint, as soon as we receive approval and sort of stress test the systems, there will be on the main page, housing.md.gov. It's not there yet, but there will be a one-stop. You will go, and then depending on where you live and who you are, either you're a tenant or a landlord, it will first you to the agency that will help you. So it's sort of a kind of a flow chart of you come into us, then you go to either Washoe, rural counties, or Clark County, and then it goes to the specific agencies that are listed that engaged you in the conversation as we're moving on.
And if I may add, just as a person that's is passionate about this world, I know we have a 211 system in that is very, very good about asking for working folks through the system and making sure that they get assistance close to their home. So they will base things off of zip codes also. But we also realize with zip codes, one agency might be overrun. So that's why we are working together with all of the agencies that do this to make sure that we give everyone the service that they need. But 211 is an excellent resource. And if there's other issues besides rental, they'll be able to direct them in the right direction also to get other assistance, let's say food pantry, utility assistance, all the other things that families are going to need to get through this crisis. 211 is able to refer them. So I've done my public service announcement for 211 today. Okay. All right. I believe Senator Cancela has a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And it's just a brief comment. The need that this program addresses is one that we know is going to be growing for quite a bit in our state, and I am hopeful that at some point we will see a second, maybe third work program that increases the amount of rental assistance that we're distributing throughout the state. We know the need will be there. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Mr. Hambrick, did you have a question? I think I saw your hand raised.
Yes, Madam Chair. One of the last speakers mentioned CDBG. I'm just wondering if we could go back and touch base on that, because I was one of the authors of CDBG a number of years ago with the Department of Justice. So I'd like to hear some more explanation, because as I said, I was one of the authors of the legislation.
Yeah. We could address that, please.
This is Steve Aycroft at the Housing Division. The Housing Division does not have oversight of the CDBG funds. That is done through GOED. Unfortunately, as was indicated previously, we have engaged them, but they are not part of the testimony here today. So I will try to speak as best I can to that. CDBG typically cannot be used for rental assistance. However, because there's a couple of different pockets of CDBG. There's CDBG DR, which gets released to a jurisdiction in the event of a disaster like a hurricane or an earthquake or something along those lines. In this particular instance, there are CDBG CV funds, and they are specific to addressing coronavirus relief efforts. And that might be, and again, maybe Kristen, because you do get CDBG, you can probably talk a little more intelligently about it from a specific project standpoint. But whether a jurisdiction chooses to use this for rental assistance or not will be entirely up to that jurisdiction. Hopefully that provides some clarity.
It does. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome, Mr. Hambrick. So do I have any other questions from any other committee members at this time? I think this is a wonderful program. I'm glad the state is getting involved. I hope we do have an opportunity to have a discussion about the money that is going to GOED for commercial assistance sometime in the future, or someone's able to share some of that information with us. I know as this crisis has evolved, I have had conversations with a number of different business owners saying, how do you guys do this? You've been doing it for a long time. If we had the money, how do we implement something like this? So I'm hoping they don't try to recreate the wheel and reach out to the folks who've been doing it for a while, so that we can help them get the money on the ground fast, because the one thing about this money is it has to be spent by December the 30th. So it's literally going to be full-fledged running to the end of this year to make sure that all of these families get past that September 1st eviction date so they all have a roof over their heads, and in September we can help them get through the end of the year. So with that, I don't believe there are any other questions on this item. Waiting to make sure that I see everyone just in case. I believe we're good, so we would be comfortable in moving this item forward. So with that, if I could have a motion, please, I guess I would accept a motion from Ms. Monroe Moreno and a second from Senator Woodhouse. Are there any questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none, I believe Ms. Jones can go ahead and call the roll, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Benitez Thompson.
Yes.
Assemblyman Frierson.
Yes.
Assemblyman Hambrick.
Yes.
Assemblywoman Howdigy.
Yes.
Assemblyman Kramer.
Yes.
Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno.
Yes.
Assemblywoman Neal.
Yes.
Assemblywoman Spiegel.
Yes.
Assemblywoman Monk.
Yes.
Assemblywoman Swain.
Yes.
Assemblywoman Backus.
Yes.
Assemblywoman.
Yes.
Assemblyman Wheeler.
Yes.
Chair Carlton.
Yes.
Senator Brooks.
Yes.
Yes.
Senator Cancella.
Sorry, I thought I had unmuted myself. I said yes and nodded to myself. Yes.
Senator Dennis.
Yes.
Senator Goycochea.
Yes.
Senator Keycapper.
Yes.
Chairwoman Woodhouse.
Yes.
Madam Chair, motion carries.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jones. I believe we can go to item number 3, which is Aging and Disability Services. If we could queue up the correct person, please.
Good morning. This is Jennifer Frischman with the Disability Services. Thank you for allowing us to present this morning. As you know, the
If you could raise your volume a little bit, please.
Absolutely. I apologize. Is that better?
Much better.
As you know, the COVID pandemic has really had a tremendous impact on our older populations, especially those in long-term care. While our ombudsman continued to advocate on behalf of the residents in these facilities, unfortunately, they have not had an on-site presence since the week of March 9th. That has been our federal guidance. The award of these funds will allow us to increase our virtual presence in these facilities and also try and mitigate social isolation by introducing technology into these facilities so that residents can keep connected not only with the ombudsman, but however, also their family and their friends. Some of the things that we're looking at doing is distributing tablets to various facilities based on their size so that they have that interaction. We're also looking at deploying and distributing activity books that will contain puzzles and mind-stimulating activities so that folks remain engaged. We're also looking at something a little bit unique, and we've been working with the Bureau of Healthcare Quality and Compliance, which is the licensing agency. We'd like to get into the facilities at visitation stations. And so these would be plexiglass or some other type of barrier that folks could go on, the resident on one side and then their family or family member on the other side, and they can communicate that way. We actually did start working with the Bureau of Healthcare Quality and Compliance to make sure that that was going to be something that they would allow. And they are in the process now of surveying facilities to see what their readiness plans are to allow visitors back in. And they were absolutely excited. So we are working with the Bureau in this endeavor as well. I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
Okay. Thank you. And hearing the plexiglass conversation, I I would hope it wouldn't look like the visiting room in a jail. We should make it look a little more friendly. We wouldn't want it that way.
Sorry, Jennifer. I'm sorry, Jennifer Frischman for the record. In researching this, it's really quite interesting and what manufacturers and other providers are doing to make it look homey. They have backdrops of the beach. They have backdrops of the Eiffel Tower. It's really pretty neat the way that providers are being creative and engaging their residents. So we're very excited about that.
So with the pandemic, how have you guys been handling making sure that the residents have their health and safety and welfare is being taken care of? I know you can't go in. So how are we there advocating for them? And if you find a problem, how are you investigating?
I will turn that over now to Jennifer Williams-Woods. She is our state long-term care ombudsman and our boots on the ground.
For the record, this is Jennifer Williams-Woods, the state long-term care ombudsman. And we are still doing our advocacy. Oftentimes we are making those phone calls and speaking with residents when we're able to, and working with family members to ensure that we can advocate in their best interest or advocate with their consent, which is what we typically do. We're also following up with facility staff members requesting records as we typically do, and they're sending it to us via email or fax, which is typically a little bit different than how we have done advocacy before. We have been able to have some video chats with some residents, and we're trying to do some virtual visits as well. So we're hoping that with the deployment of the tablets that we will be able to conduct more visits this way and actually see residents more face to face, because a lot of times our advocacy and our investigations are done using all of our senses, and we're limited right now as to what we can do. The CMS Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services has declared us essential individuals to have access to the residents, but we're still not able to get into facilities at this time.
Thank you very much. So committee members, are there other questions on this particular item? No questions? I think we've addressed it all. Okay. Well, thank you, ladies, very much. Good job. Keep up the good work, and we look forward to hearing from you in the future on how things are going. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, so I believe committee members, with no other questions, and I see no hands raised, we could go ahead and process this item if everyone's comfortable. So with that, on C3, we would go ahead and do a roll call vote, but I will go ahead and accept a motion from Ms. Wilson. I'm sorry?
I will move approval.
I have a motion from Senator Woodhouse, and second from Dr. Titus. Any questions or comments on the motion, committee? Hearing none. Ms. Jones, if you would go ahead and call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Yes.
Assemblyman Frierson.
Yes.
Assemblyman Hambrick.
Yes.
Assemblywoman Howdigee.
Yes.
Assemblyman Kramer.
Yes.
Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno.
Yes.
Assemblywoman Neal.
Yes.
Assemblywoman Spiegel.
Yes.
Assemblywoman Monk.
Yes.
Assemblywoman Swank.
Yes.
Assemblywoman Backus.
Yes.
Assemblywoman Titus.
Yes.
Assemblyman Wheeler.
Yes.
Chairwoman Carlton.
Yes.
Senator Brooks.
Yes.
Senator Cancela.
Yes.
Senator Dennis. Senator,
Yes.
Senator Goycochea.
Yes.
Senator Keycapper.
Yes.
Senator Parks.
Yes.
Senator Settlemeyer.
Yes.
Chairwoman Woodhouse.
Yes.
Motion carries, Madam Chair.
And thank you, Ms. Jones. And I believe we do need to correct the record on C2 in the roll call. A couple folks might have been missed. So did you need to correct that record right now, Ms. Jones?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Unfortunately, I didn't note on my sheets here that 2 senators were missing off of the list for that item, and those were Senator Parks and Senator Settlemyer. So I would like to include their vote on item C2. So Senator Parks.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Yes.
Thank you. And Senator Settlemyer.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Yes.
Thank you. Sorry that I missed you the first time around. My apologies.
Thank you. That's fine. So with that, committee members, we are going on to our last agendized item. We still do have public comment at the very end, but we'll go to item number 4, which is Division of Welfare and Supportive Services. Discussion to implement the new pandemic electronic benefits transfer program for food assistance. Otherwise, we all call it SNAP. So with that, if I could have the appropriate person queued up.
Good morning, this is Robert Thompson. Are you able to hear me?
If you could raise the volume just a bit, that would be helpful.
I may just have to speak up, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you.
Good morning, this is Robert Thompson, Field Operations Deputy Administrator for the Division of Welfare and Supportive Services. Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
This work program is to request authority of emergency funds awarded as part of the CARES Act in the amount of $848,624 to support the expenses of implementing a program known as Pandemic EBT, which was authorized under the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. So the program was authorized under the Families First Act, but there was no funding in that act. The funding is available in the CARES Act. The Pandemic EBT, or PEBT as we're calling it, allows Nevada to utilize SNAP program to release SNAP benefits to children who are enrolled in free and reduced lunch, but were unable to access those meals during the time frame that schools were closed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Our estimates show that well over 320,000 Nevada children could benefit from the PEBT program, with an estimated total benefit just under, the maximum benefit looks like it will be just under $99 million in additional SNAP benefits would be released to Nevada families. And we look forward to taking any questions.
Thank you very much. And I can tell you, someone who works in a food pantry, when the kids were out of school, we were picking up milk twice a week instead of once a week. We were going through a lot more milk and cereal for those couple of months there. So with that, Ms. Monk, I believe you had a question?
I do, and thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Thompson, for your presentation. My question is, how does the division plan to conduct public outreach and enroll those non-SNAP members' households who are currently enrolled not only in SNAP, but also in the Pandemic Electronic Transfer Program? Can you give us some details on how you're going to implement this?
Robert Thompson for the record. No outreach is needed for this program. We do not, the families do not need to apply for this program. Rather, we are doing a direct match with the Department of Education. Any children that were receiving free and reduced lunch will be auto-matched with our programs. Children that were on the SNAP program will automatically just receive the additional benefit. We'll be adding it to their parents' card. Children that were not on the SNAP program, we will be sending them a flyer to notify them of the program. We'll be auto-enrolling them in the program, and we'll be mailing EBT card, which is the plastic card that holds the benefit, auto out to their households.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So with that flyer, there'll be an explanation, and I'm assuming Okay. Assuming whatever accompanies it will be in multiple languages so that all the families will understand that what this card is, because they may not even be familiar with the program. So I think there's still some education that's going to go on, even though it is an actual outreach.
Robert Thompson, for the record, yes, all of our correspondence is always sent out in English and Spanish. Likely the flyer will either be front and back or top and
work to get a copy of those flyers so that we can make sure we educate our clientele on the availability of this and that it is okay to use it, that they're just not getting a card in the mail, or they think, oh, someone made a mistake and put too much money on my card, and they're apprehensive of using it because they think it might be next month's benefit and they don't want to use it up too quick.
Robert Thompson, for the record, yes, we will be reaching out to all of our community partners and doing a press release. But Madam Chairperson, yes, we will reach out, especially to our food bank partners, to make sure those flyers are made available.
Thank you. It's amazing how much information you can share with folks when they're standing in line waiting to pick up their food. It's a great time to educate them. So I appreciate that. I think Ms. Spiegel had a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. So one of the things in Clark County is that I know we have enough people who speak Tagalog that we print ballots in that language. I think it's great that you've got materials that are in Spanish, but I'm wondering if there are any plans in place to expand that to also include Tagalog.
Robert Thompson, for the record, at this time, there are not plans to expand any other languages. We do have language line available to any customer that calls in, so that we're able to translate with any language that someone calls into. And if anybody comes into our office, we do have the sheets that somebody can point to whichever language they're speaking so that we can get somebody on the phone to translate with us. But at this time, there are not plans to have written information available in other than English or Spanish.
Okay, thank you.
And Ms. Spiegel, I know that there are some community organizations out there that have volunteered to do translation for folks so that you can post, so that we can post things on the doors and windows where services are provided. And we've even gotten to the point where we can put QR codes on there so people can just scan it with their phone and be able to keep it. So there are resources out there. The community has been fantastic in coming together to make sure that we can all communicate.
Great, thank you.
Benefits are, so yes. So are there any other questions from any other committee members on this particular item?
Madam Chair.
Senator Kiefer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was looking for in the backup material. Is the benefit going to be calculated based on number of children or by household?
The Robert Thompson, for the record, the benefit is calculated by the number of children and the number of days missed in school from school, with an average days calculated through Nevada from each school district. Food and Nutrition Services required that we put a plan together, and it was not possible for us to calculate each child separately. So instead, we did an average of all school days missed in Nevada from the pandemic, taking into account the Easter breaks and taking into account when school ended in each district. The number of days for if a child was eligible in March, there are 12 days that were missed in March on average. In April, there were 20 days, and in May, there were 20 days.
So a family with multiple children will receive the benefit multiplied by that number of children?
Correct. Robert Thompson, for the record, correct. It's $5.70 per day per child eligible for the number of days per month. If a child was enrolled in free and reduced lunch for at least one day in that month, they would receive the entire month's benefit times $5.70 per child. If the children were in all 3 months, assuming that each child was receiving free and reduced lunch for the 3 months, the benefit is calculated at $296 per child.
Thank you, Senator. I was on mute. That's a good amount. I don't think I could have ever fed one of my kids for that amount of money. So with that, I believe Senator Dennis has a question.
Okay, thank you. I'm just looking at the costs on the PEBT. It looks like most of it is going to be in setup and then the non-SNAP households and that. But I was just looking at the IT development and IT testing seems to be minimal. Does that mean there's minimal setup and programming that needs to occur for this to be able to be implemented?
Robert Thompson, for the record, yes, the development cost within the welfare division were minimal. The majority of the cost for this program, out of the almost $900,000, was due to our vendor having to create accounts and issue EBT cards to all of the non-SNAP household, all of the non-SNAP children.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Dennis. Are there any other questions? And I'm assuming that when this benefit hits their card, it'll be the same scheme, the way they use their card, depending upon what the last date of the year of their birth is, the date the benefits will be available. And will it all be loaded at one time then?
Robert Thompson, for the record, it will not be loaded at the same time of their normal benefit. These are a special issuance. We are spreading the benefit out over 10 days so that the household will receive the entire amount at once. 10% of the households will receive their benefit per day for 10 days to not overload our system. And the agreements that we had with the Retailers Association was to not overload the retailers all at once. So we will be spreading it out over 10 days.
Okay, thank you, because that becomes a problem. The shelves become empty. We've had a distribution problem in Las Vegas, and I've noticed many times, depending upon what day it is, you can go in and some of the shelves can be empty. So by spreading that out, families have an opportunity to get the things that they need to purchase. So thanks for considering that. Are there any other questions from any other committee members at this time? Well, it's been a good meeting. We're making sure people have a roof over their head and that they're fed. So these are important issues. So seeing no other questions, I can go ahead and accept a motion on this from Ms. Monk. I'll accept the motion and then a second from Senator Woodhouse. Any questions or comments on this particular item? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and ask Ms. Jones to call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Assemblywoman Benita Thompson.
Yes. Yes.
Assemblyman Frierson.
Yes.
Assemblyman Hambrick.
Yes.
Assemblywoman Howdiggy.
Yes.
Assemblyman Kramer.
Yes.
Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno.
Yes.
Assemblywoman Neal.
Yes.
Assemblywoman Spiegel.
Yes.
Assemblywoman Swank.
Yes.
Assemblywoman Titus.
Yes.
Assemblyman Wheeler.
Yes.
Woman Carlton.
Yes.
Senator Brooks.
Yes.
Senator Cancela.
Yes.
Senator Dennis.
Yes.
Senator Goycochea.
Here. Yes.
Senator Keffer.
Absolutely.
Senator Parks.
Yes.
Senator Settlemeyer.
Yes.
Vice Chair Woodhouse.
Yes.
Motion passes, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jones. So with that, that completes our business under our work programs. We can now take about a 2-minute pause to make sure that anyone that does want to call in under public comment has the opportunity to do so. So I have 11:23. So at about 11:25, we will come back and check with broadcast services to see if anyone is in the queue, and then we will proceed from there. So if everyone would just take a brief pause for 2 minutes, that would be great. Thank you. Oh. Ms. Jones? I believe we may have missed a couple of folks on the roll call this last time. I don't believe we got Ms. Monk or Ms. Backus.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. Woman Monk and Assemblywoman Backus.
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry about that. I apologize that my sheets are a little.
It's okay. This is a whole new learning environment. So we'll give it another moment or so, and then we'll go back to public comment. Thank you, guys.
I guess I shouldn't let you just sit here for 2 minutes. I'm going to pause.
I believe our work for today is done. Thank you all very much for your time and attendance. We're doing things on double track, so we just got to make sure everything keeps moving forward. So with that, thank you all very much, and this IFC meeting is adjourned.
Okay. That was Nevada Ledge. And I'm going to save that and upload it.